further ado, I'll be introducing the CEO of Leaderonomics, Roshan.
Good morning, everyone. So today, one of the things I would ask you to help a little bit is how do you scale your organization? How do you really grow it? And so I just want to maybe very quickly get a sense of from you guys. Is there specific areas that you'd like to talk about, or you'd like to zoom in and give me a little bit flexible about it? Is there specifics that you're here for? I mean, is there a thing that you want to know or learn or talk about, or it's just you're just here to listen and kind of see what we can get out of it? Is there anyone who wants anything specific out of today? No? Yes?
I think basically from manufacturing, we are a Dutch-based company.
Okay.
Today I'm here because I have a group of, not my own people, but I have a group of suppliers, which is the SME, ranging from 10 to 100 million. So they are local Chinese, local Malays. So the takeaway is that how can this program actually help them? This is targeted at the SME.
Okay, okay, good. So it's for you, it's just a preview of what would be some of the shortcomings. Okay, any other folks? Sure.
Basically, in our company, we have more than 10 nationalities.
Yep.
So how do we respect everyone's diversity and culture?
Okay. So it's really zooming on the culture piece. Okay, so maybe Joseph, we can address some of those things afterwards. Okay. And any other things that you'd like personally to hear and know about? And you don't have to look at this first. We'll talk about this in a bit. It's more of some notes for you to take in case you forgot to bring paper. Any other things that you want specifically covered? If not, feel free to interrupt at any point. I'm more than happy to. This is weird. But never mind. I'll move closer. Okay. So let me very quickly walk you through just for a little background. I didn't spend much time until the last 10 years when I started a business. But prior to that, I worked for a company called General Electric. So spent most of my time with GE, about 14, 15 years, working mostly in the US and Europe. And then I came back here, very interesting, in 1999, I came back here, my seventh role. So I did a number of roles, mostly in finance. I ran a small business. I did some integration projects for mostly in financial services and a little bit in TV. So I worked at NBC Universal, a TV organization, or movie. I mean, they make movies and TVs, but really, mostly in terms of running business, mostly in finance. And then I came back to Malaysia, and this is very interesting. When I came back to Malaysia, it was funny. I was actually in the US, this was 98, and I was part of a best practice team in GE. And when I was there, my boss, who happened to also be the head of IT, had Jack Welch, who was the CEO of GE, and come in, barge into our room and say, guys, we are in big trouble. And then everybody looks at him, what big trouble, right? He got just announced as the best CEO in the world for like the century or something like that a couple of weeks earlier. So what trouble are we in? And he said, do you know there's this thing that's going to destroy the world? Then we all look at him, say what? And he says, Y2K bug. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember this phenomena, but the year 2000, there was this programming error that was supposed to destroy the whole world. And so he looked around, you guys have to sort it out, because part of the strategy team also included the IT team. And my boss, Gary Reiner, the head of strategy, he looks around and says, guys, we need to solve it. One of you need to take charge of this project. And they look around the room, and then Gary's like, Roshan, why don't you take charge of the Y2K project? And then I looked at him, I'm like, yes, because back in those days, you don't challenge your boss. When the boss says jump, you say, how high, sir? And you just do it. So I was like, sure. And then after that, I go ask my friends, why me? I'm a finance guy. I don't know anything about technology or IT. Why me Y2K? Then the guy turns around and says, you're Indian. You Indian guys know IT. So I ended up becoming GE's global Y2K leader, going around the world, spending money. That's what I was told, spend a lot of money, which I did quite well. But one of the things that was interesting is that I got to attend board meetings. So I got to attend the GE board meetings, and during the board meetings, I got to present this red, yellow, green traffic light that showed, here's our IT readiness, here's our system readiness, and all that Y2K mumbo jumbo. And when I was doing that, one of the things that was interesting is I got to see like people presenting about how they sell companies, how they buy companies, how they make certain decisions. So that was interesting, because I usually came in about half an hour before my turn, so I got to see one or two presentations, and then before my piece. And it just happened prior to there was a disposition of an asset that GE owned in Malaysia. So in 1997, GE bought a small aviation company. So what they do is, the jet airlines that the airlines that you fly. This company takes the engines out of the aircraft. They overhaul the engine, they service it, they change the parts, and then they put it back into the engine. So that's what this company does. And GE bought it in 97, and for 2 years, they tried very hard to turn this company around. So they bought it from Malaysian Airlines, and when they bought it, it was losing about 80 million US dollars. So they tried to turn it around for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, it was losing about 60 million. And it had no sense of ever, and this 60 million US a year is losing, had about 30 million US in sales. So small company, about 450 employees. And basically, the leaders came back and said, look, we want to dispose of this asset. So they came to the board to present asset disposition. Basically, they want to put this asset up for sale and get the board approval for that. And I heard this and I said, hey, it's in Malaysia. And I'm from Malaysia. So I said, wait, why are you selling an asset in Malaysia? And then somehow, bravely, I put up my hand and said, hey, I'm Malaysian, and I think if you let me, I will take over this company and I will turn it around. Give me another 2 years. And they talked a bit, and after a while, the head of the aviation business looked at me, and he said, Roshan, I tell you what, you go run this business for 2 years. If you are successful turning it, great. If you're not successful, we're going to sell this business together with you, right? And that was my marching order to say, go. And I was so excited, wow, I'm coming back to Malaysia, I get to run the business. And then I came back on my second day of work. This is what happened. So we have a flight, Malaysian Airlines, from KL to Delhi, and we just serviced it was a 2-engine aircraft. So some aircraft have 4 engines, some aircraft have 2 engines. Technically, a plane can easily work on 1 engine, right? So the second one is like, it's an extra, right? Essentially, you can fly on 1 engine, right? So what happened is we just mounted these 2 engines we serviced, brand new, put it on the aircraft, halfway along the Indian Ocean. So KL Delhi flight, halfway, right? Both the engines come off their mount and fall off. Both, not one, both. And the pilot, amazing, managed to glide the plane right to Chennai, not Delhi, but to Chennai. Have an emergency landing, everything's fine, engines are totally damaged. Right? This is my second day of work. I get a call from our customer, Malaysian Airlines. What? All kinds of, I'm like, what's happening? They said, this is what happened, how come you guys mounted it wrong, this and that? Okay, so that happened. And I was like, what happened? How did we do this wrong, right? Okay, then about 2 weeks in, it's about 8 days in, I hear an explosion, and there's a test cell. Test cell is where we test our engines. So before we send the engine back, put it back on the plane, we test it to make sure that the engine works. Because if you don't test it and put it back, it causes issues. So we were testing it, right? And as they were testing it, there was an explosion. Something blew up. And so we did a bit of a study, and we found out that somebody had crushed photocopy paper and put it inside the fuel tank. Right? And so we said, hey, who did this? How? Somebody's sabotaging us. So we went around trying so hard to figure out who was driving, who did this. And it came up to the conclusion, nobody can go into the test cell except an employee. Which means one of our employees was sabotaging our own company. And so for the first 6 months was the worst 6 months of my life. Because everything I tried to do to turn this company around failed miserably. And nothing worked. And every time you tell people, hey, we need to do so, the worst part of the company is this, the turnaround time. So typically, the best in class can turn around an engine in about 40 days. So if an airline sends you an engine, in 40 days, that's a company in Israel called iTrack, they can turn an engine around in 40 days. Most do it between 60 days, maximum 60, some do it 80. This company had an average turnaround time of 450 days. Average. There were engines in there, there were 2.5 years, and we still haven't returned it to our customer. Right? And we have one customer, Malaysian Airlines, right, essentially. So I looked and said, guys, we have to do things faster. And everything I tried, they came back, you don't understand aviation. You're not an aviation guy. Here, it's not like banking, very easy. This is about compliance, it's about this. And they gave me there's so many approvals, there's this. And every time you tried to do something, there was always pushback. And there was always some sort of resistance, and you could never get anything done. And this happened over for 6 months. And I think I used to go to work at 7 and came back at 12. at night, 12 midnight. And every day was the same, and nothing seems to change. And I really started to go mad. How? And I said, it's gone. There is no way we're going to fix this company. And I think many times I realized that whenever I talk to some leaders today, there are companies where you feel so frustrated, you try so many things, but nothing seems to work. And you try so many initiatives, and nothing seems to work. And this was what happened. And then I started to do things slightly differently. I started saying, let me understand what is frustrating our employees. Why is it that so changing your mindset a little bit. So initially, everyone told me the problem is your people. You have lousy people, you get lousy products. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and monkeys will deliver this kind of. So everything was about the people. Lousy people equals this. So you really have to change your people. And somehow, all my experiences previously in GE, it never was about the people. It was always about something else. It was about 4 or 5 key different things that I used to think about. And those are the 4 or 5 things we'll talk about in a bit. So I said, let me work on these things. And I started on one thing, and another thing, and another thing. Now in 1.5 years, so about 2 years into this project, right? So I started April 1999. So somewhere in May 2001, right? When we started to look at this, right? We had grown our business about tenfold. So we bought 300 million US, so about $1 billion ringgit in revenue. But not only that, we had so many defects prior to that, but the 6 months prior to this time, we had 0 defects. Meaning, we had 10 times our revenue, but we had no defects now. But more interestingly is that with half our employees, so a lot of people got frustrated with a lot of the change we did and left. Right? So we are down to 270 employees. We had 10 times the business. We had no defects, and the most amazing thing is, guess how fast we could turn around an engine? We got prizes, right, Kennedy?
Yeah.
Do we have anything to give up? Can okay. I'll give something. 7 days, no, that's humanly impossible. But remember, the best in the world do it in 40 days. Right? The 60,
55.
40, 35, right? Okay, we got a winner. 35 days, over there. Gentleman over there.
Thank you.
The book. 35 days, right? We became the best organization in terms of best overall shop in the world with exactly the same employees, right? In fact, less. And so it started a very interesting journey for me because GE called me and said, "Will you do that? You know, you need to teach all the sites all over the world. You know what you did over there." And I ended up taking a role actually with Crotonville, which is our leadership development center. So that time we had a new CEO, Jeff Himmel, had come in and said, "Roshan, I want you to make sure we change training and learning from academics to practical and the stuff that we're doing out there. And I want you to take it to our customers, to help our customers become better. So teach this to our customers, so our customers become better. When they become better, we get more work." Right? And I took on this very different sort of role. Actually, it started out being very tired. I was really tired after 2 years. Then I used to visit customers every day because the number one thing when you run a business is sales, right? So I used to visit customers. I remember went to Asiana in Korea. I went to Japan Airlines, and I went to Guangzhou to meet China Southern. And I remember during dinner with the customer, the head of engineering of China Southern, I fainted. We were eating this hot noodles, and I just got so tired I fainted. And she panicked and she said, "Roshan, you go back, I will sign the contract now. Here's 10 engines, go." And so I thought that's a good way to close sales really fast, the sympathy. But during that time, I had an evaluation of what am I doing. I need to change something in my life, and then that's when GE said, "Hey, take on this role. It will be a slightly different role, but it's really incorporating a lot of this learning that you kind of figured out something on how to drive change, but in a way that actually is not based on the stuff that we talk about, but really it's about the belief that every person generally comes to work on Monday wanting to do good. Generally, most people come to work on Monday wanting to do good. The problem is when they come to work, they get frustrated, sometimes by you all, sometimes by the stuff that happens, sometimes by the inability to sell, the inability to effectively do stuff that they have to do. And all these different things, frustration, amounts to them lowering their performance capability and ultimately resulting in the results that you get. And so after a couple of years, trying to understand, especially in Crotonville, when I said that my role was to go visit leaders. When I went to other organizations and talked to leaders, like, interesting when I met Herb Kelleher from Southwest Airlines. So we had this conversation about what is leadership. And you start to say, hey, you're talking about the same elements, but they code it in different ways. They call it innovation, they call it this, they call it that. But actually, essentially, it boils down to a couple of very simple things on how you drive scale. Because you cannot scale your business unless you figure out to get your employees performing at full capability. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit. And one of the elements that I'll talk about is culture. And Joseph will take that to the next level. Right? Joseph will go deeper into that space. And when you have a little sheet there, later I'll show you a little guide that you can use to measure your own business, to look at your own organization and ask questions related to these things. Because when you start asking these questions, you start to think in a very different way. So let me go right into this. So what is stopping us? Because the very interesting thing is that why is it Malaysia? I found very few that are really top 2, top 3 in the world in Malaysia. Right? So we found a company called Top Glove. If you define their industry in a small way, yes, they are top in the world. PictoChart is another one in Penang. If you define the infographics world in that space, okay, they're top 2 probably. They used to be number 1. Their competitor got this huge funding, and now I think they're number 2. So there's very few that really you can say that this is the best in the world. But yet, in small countries, where countries like Nokia have Lego and Denmark, and so, some of these countries where you see small countries, 1 million population, 3 million population, but are able to produce world number 1s. So the question said, why is it that we can't do it in Malaysia? And part of this is to try and understand is that there are actually 2 big constraints that's stopping you. Right? And I'm going to focus a little bit more on the organizational constraint. I'm not going to talk about the personal constraint, but personal constraints are usually individual related. And if your employee, so very interesting, when we meet an employee and we say, hey, what's wrong with you, right? The first criteria is to look at organizational constraint. Is something in the organization stopping that person from being effective? Right? And then if you say, look, the organization is set up for you to succeed, then you got to look at the personal piece. Maybe this person has beliefs that are constraining them. Maybe they have certain motivations. Maybe they are wrongly suited for this organization. And then you start to say, can we exit them from the organization? But the first foremost you need to look at is the mirror of what we call organizational constraints. So what are these organizational constraints? So I'm going to share 4, and we can talk a little bit, and please feel free to let me know if I'm talking too slow, because I can really speed it up if it's a little bit too slow for you guys. So what are these, right? So these are the 4, and I'm going to go through a little bit in detail. But the first part, right, leadership, right, is not what you think it is. Now I'll explain it a little bit. To me, leadership is simply, are your employees clear? Are your employees have clarity on what the mission is, what you need to do, or what you need to get done, right? And are you acting in that way, right? The second piece, and this is interesting business model, right? Maybe I'll spend a little bit of time on this, is that if you look at the business model piece, right? If you were Nokia, you happen to be the head of sales for Nokia in the year 2009, right? So 2007, late 2007, Apple came out with its phone. By 2008, Samsung had come up with its smartphones. If you, in 2003, if you were head of sales in Nokia, you were the most outstanding sales guy in the world. Right? Now that same person, 4 or 5 years later, became one of the worst salespeople in the world. Right? Whose fault is it? Has that person lost capability to suddenly become a lousy salesperson? Well, what has happened? Something morphed, right? Because in 2004, 2005, 2006, wow, Nokia, the number 1, and this guy is a celebrated hero. Wow, look at the way you're driving international sales. Look at the way the sales organization of Nokia, it's an incredible organization, right? But somehow, 2007 tail end, 2008, boom, Nokia just went from the number 1 to suddenly being one of those. And up to 2013, right, when they realized that, oh, shucks, we got to do something. It took them 5 years to figure it out. But something had changed. And you can say, let me hire a better salesperson to replace this guy. Not going to change, right? Because something fundamentally had changed. The business model had changed. The world had changed. And your business model is obsolete. And this happens many times in businesses, where we had a successful business and we know we are successful. We built this business and it helped us to get to a certain level, 5 million in revenue, 10 million in revenue. But for us to get to the next level, right, that business model is not going to carry through. And when you keep pushing your employees, nothing's going to happen because it's not their fault. It's the business model, right? And many times we need to re-examine our business model. And it happened for companies like Polaroid, for example, Kodak, right? I mean, a lot of these companies, and we've seen this Sony, right? Betamax, having better technology doesn't mean you will be successful. It's very much dependent on how you distribute your business model, right? And sometimes being good at something doesn't generate, even being very good at marketing it may not necessarily translate to success. Because it ultimately boils down to how you look at the way your business is structured and the business model of your organization. So that's a question. So and we'll talk a little bit more in detail as I'll show you in a little bit some questions. We talk about positioning and how you can look at business model in a couple of ways. So I'll just leave you to think about that. So if you look at your business, right, and do I have the right business model to enable myself to scale to the next level or no, right? And if the answer is no, right, then you know you have to do something. And I'll talk a little bit about my own experience. Because in 2013, I took a short sabbatical. So in May 2013, we had a big general election in Malaysia. And after the election, one of the most hated organizations in the world was the Star newspaper. Probably still is. But somewhere along that line, the CEO of the Star quit the business and went off to the Edge. So we were good friends, and somehow the board after that in May, they had this very shaky time, and they asked me to come in and say, can you come in and manage our business? And I said, no way, I'm going to run the Star. But they said temporarily. And I said, wait, this might be a good sabbatical to get away from my business and run this business. So I took a break, and when I took a break, I started to look at my business, because I'm an outsider now, in a very different light. I'm like, that's my business. Oh my goodness. And that's where I started to look at our business model. I started to look at some of these elements and say, hey, we need to do something. We need to destroy before we can rebuild. Right? And this is the funny thing. If you keep your business model without destroying it, right, people will continue to run that same business model. The only way to move to something new is to destroy. Right? So we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Okay, so that's business models. Right? Now let's talk a little bit about leadership. So let me ask you a question, right? A very simple question. Above all, a leader must be, fill in the blanks, give another prize. Above all, a leader must be one word. Visionary. Yeah. Right word, but not the specific word we're looking for. You're going to come up with all the right answers, but not, open-minded. Yeah. Proactive, yes, but not the word. Above all, forward thinking, yes. These are all right pieces. I mean, it's important for me. Yes, but not above all. Above all. True. Just above all. Kenny's getting a prize ready, but I don't think anyone's gonna get this. When I show you this, you're gonna like throw stones at me. But again, never mind. So, Okay. Above all, listener, yes, very important. Yes, but important, but not above all. And I mentioned this a few times, right? Okay, so we'll give you the answer. Above all, a leader must be clear. Right. What does this mean, clarity? And you know what? I find this very interesting. One of the fundamental blocks of leadership is that we have these big ideas in our mind that we want to drive, but none of our employees can understand it because they see things in very different lenses, right? And clarity is one of the toughest things in leadership because we say, okay, this is the organization we want to build, this is the big thing we want to build, but to enable that clarity to be translated to every single employee so that they are together walking the same walk. And many times I look at this, I play football a bit, and a coach can come to the player and say, guys, you striker, you need to score a lot of goals. Go. See the goalpost over there, score. So the guy scores 9 goals, and he says, boss, I scored 9 goals. You should be very proud. Yeah, but he said, yeah, but you did a bad job. I said, why? I scored 9 goals. But we lost 5-4. What do you mean we lost 5-4? Yeah, you scored. Half time we changed sides. Now you have to score this goal, not this goal. And he kept scoring on this side, right? And we can be clear and say, hey, how clear am I? This is where we're going. But then the world changes. right? And the world changes in the daily. Context change all the time, right? And then you have to re-clarify that actually the goalpost is the same thing, same vision, but the goalpost actually has moved. And that is tough, It's very tough. And we think we have communicated, but not true. And to the mind of employees, they're like frustrated like crazy. Why? So I suggest 3 clarities that are key. That's it. If you can get these 3 clarities, right, to your team, you would be somewhat successful as a leader. That's it. I mean, there's a lot of elements to leadership. You read there, like someone, yesterday I met a leadership guru from New Zealand, and he's saying that every hour there's a book on leadership published somewhere in the world, right? Something like that, 24 books a day or something on leadership. So there's a million methods of 5 steps, 7 steps, and 7 habits, and all these things about leadership. But to me, if you want to start in your organization, forget about all that. Think about how can I be clear to my employees on these 3 elements. Okay. So what are these 3 elements? For me, the first and most important thing is what we call vision clarity. Is your organization, is your small business, right? Whatever business that you are you guys clear on what the final goal is, what the final destination? And is every single person in the organization clear? Do they have that same clarity? And if they do, great. And how do you reinforce it? How do you remind them? How do you constantly, I do an all-employee meeting. We have about 80 employees here in Malaysia, about 5 in Thailand, and a couple here and there spread out. So for the guys in Malaysia, once a month, right? I sit there. So I have an all-employee meeting. I get about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. They keep cutting me down. I used to be an hour. My team keeps cutting me down. We talk too much. So down. But even then, in that 30 minutes or 40 minutes, I actually talk about the same thing. So everybody's bored. I just read. So okay, let's talk about vision. Let's talk about where we're going. What's changing the world and what does it mean for our vision? What's happening in the context of the world, and let's talk about vision. Let's talk about vision. Let's talk about the next thing. Let's talk about where we are today. And this is the toughest part. So what I call reality clarity. So it's vision clarity. But if you know where you want to go, the next thing you need to know is where you are today. And this is very hard. Malaysia is a country we are the worst at reality clarity. Right? We always think we are a tiger, we are somewhere in the middle, we have a great economy, we're this, we're that. And so we start somewhere at KR2, and we start to make plans from where we think we are to where our final vision is to be a developed nation by 2020. Not going to happen, very likely. Right? And we've been talking about this for 30 years now. To be a developed nation by 2020. Sure.
I noticed also transforming the nation there. Now, you see what you just say.
I am helping I've just been asked to be part of the human resource think tank. So the YB Kula, who is the HR minister, we meet once every couple of weeks to help them. But transforming our nation is, actually I'll talk a little bit about our vision in a bit. Right? That's a Leaderonomics goal, what we do. But I'll explain that in a bit. But that was more on the side, not so much officially in the capacity of the organization. What we do, we have started now with this new government to really to look at ways to help them out. I mean, they don't have funds, so really on a pro bono basis. Exactly. Yes. And I mean, just to share, my first meeting with him, I said, look, can you tell me 3 things in this next 4 or 5 years as minister that you want to accomplish? Because if you don't have clarity of the final goal, none of the ministry employees will be able to know where you're going. Right? And I'll say this to you, if we talk to anyone, if I go to your organization and talk to one of your employees and say, what's the final destination? Right? Will all of them come up with the same answer? When I went in 2013 and I started asking our employees, right, everyone sort of said something that was good and nice and social in nature, because that's what we are, a social enterprise. But the destination seemed to be different depending on their lens. So I come from this background, so it's about setting, helping the NGOs in the world. It's about this. So everyone looked at it in slightly different definitions. And then I say we have a problem with vision clarity. The harder part is reality clarity. We always think we're better than who we are. So we always cannot really say, actually, I'm really down here. And if I'm down here, what must I do to get up here? It's better to know where you are than say, I'm actually in the middle and I want to move from here. And that's our problem in Malaysia, right? for years and years and years, this is a study done by Commando a number of years ago, right? They compared 3 countries, Ghana, Malaysia, and Korea, South Korea. And they said in 1957, Ghana was the top among the 3 in terms of GDP and economy and so on. By 1980s, Korea and Malaysia were slightly ahead of Ghana, Malaysia being higher than Korea actually at that point in time, the late 70s, right? By 1997, Korea and Malaysia were neck on neck with each other. Ghana was way behind, totally left behind. By 2008, Korea was a developed economy and having global organizations, and Malaysia was still where they were, or worse off than they were in 97. And the study concluded very simply saying this: how did Korea make that leap from 97? Even though the Korean economy was worse off than the Malaysian economy. You know, Korea had to borrow money from the IMF. They had to go and basically, go down on their knees and basically strip themselves bare naked and say, okay, our economy is totally bust. Well, what happened? And it's very interesting if you understand the Korean experience. So when they went to IMF said, look, you don't see reality. The reality is you have broken institutions, you have no governance, you have a lot of issues in terms of your structural. You need to make sure there's some. So IMF said you need to break everything and look at yourself in the mirror and really know where you are and start back from ground zero. You're not a tiger, you're a kitten, maybe, or a mouse, or something of that like. So you're not a tiger, right? Whereas Malaysia, we successfully navigated. We didn't have to take hard reforms, or we didn't have to reinvent ourselves, right? Because we somehow sailed through. And we continue to believe we are okay, what? We are middle sort of nation, nice, what? We look at KL, nice buildings, forgetting there's parts of Sarawak with no electricity, right? And so what happened is, because we believe we are there, we start to make plans from where we think we are to where we are, and none of our plans ever work, because you never build the foundation required to enable you to get to that point. And that's why reality is very important. And it starts with us, right, as leaders. Are we clear about our reality? And then the last one is what I call mission clarity. And this one is simply this. When you have a plan, right? Okay, here's where I want to be, here's where I am today, here's the plan. What you need to do is not draw out the full plan, because context keeps changing. You need to draw out key milestones. And that's what I call key results, KR1, KR2, and so on and so forth. So you need to draw, look, in 3 years we need to hit this result. How we get there, let the teams figure it out. When we try to run the business too much, right? Or we don't give them key results to have attain to, we start to go all over. Okay? And that's what leadership is. It's simply these 3 things. Having clear vision, having clear sense of reality. And this is from our projects. Have to be candid, be very clear, have a sense of reality, right? Always have what he called reality candor, right? And I said reality clarity. And the last one is mission clarity. Mission meaning key milestones. Right? When we hit this milestone, great, we celebrate, but then we go to the next milestone, and the next one, and the next one. And that's it. To me, if you get this right, and this is what we did with my team in 99, I said, look guys, what's our vision? And then I said, look, I sat with them, and then it didn't work, so I'm like, okay, I'm telling you what, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be the best overhaul shop in Asia. And then they all laughed at me. Are you crazy? We are Malaysians, blah, blah, blah. They have this mental block about it. I said best, first I said best in the world. Then we negotiated the best in Asia. Okay, fine, we're going to be best in Asia, right? What does it take to be the best in Asia? The guys in Asia, the guys in China, the guys in Xiamen and stuff, they're doing 60 days. So we need to get after the right time. So when you start looking at, okay, where we are today, 450 days. First milestone is our turnaround time must be 60 days. And so we say, what can we do? And then we said, team, what can you do? And I pushed the team. I said, disassembly team, you take 10 days to disassemble the engine. Can't we do it? Most people, the best in the world, do it in 3 days, 2 days. Can't you do it in 3 days? Then you be back. Okay, I tell you what, lock yourself in a room. You discuss this for 3 days. I give you holiday for 3 days. Just to figure out how to disassemble in 3 days. They came back, they managed 5 days, the first attempt. And then they did it again, they did 3 days. Can't we do it faster? No, it's impossible. If not, we're the best in the world. That's the best in the world. Then they did it in 2 days. Then I said, okay, let's talk about my repair guys. We took each group and we said, how do we do it faster and faster? And they ended up hitting 50 days, 45 days, 40 days. Wow. And I said, we can do better with no defects. And then we hit 35. And then Japan Airlines came and signed an exclusive 10-year deal. And that's one of the airlines with the best safety record. I mean, they're ultimately very, very anal about safety. And they signed a deal for us, who previously 2 years past had huge defects all over, right? Except for the brilliance of the Malaysian Airlines pilots. I think we have seen a lot more disasters. But then Japan Airlines signs this. And then Singapore Airlines, which has their own shop called Eagle Services. I got a call towards the end of my time. Hey, Roshan, we're going to send one engine to you guys. I said, what about your shop? Is your shop down? I thought something was wrong. No. It's not down, but it's one of those engines that are very dodgy that we can't figure out, so we thought your shop can fix it. So I said, you're sending your engine to a Malaysian shop to fix. Okay, cool. So we took it, we fixed it, no defects after that, right? And then I said, I think we made it. When Singapore doesn't want to send it to their own shop, but rather sends it to the Malaysian shop, I think we have reached the point. But it starts with this. How do we prescribe that goal? How do we prescribe reality? The reality is, hey, every single employee must know reality. Look, we are 500 days turnaround time. And the best in the world do it in 40 days. And most people in Asia do it in 60 days. Come on guys, what's happening? Right? When employees understand reality, when employees understand the eco, and then you start to say, we need to get to 40 days, or I put 60 days, I remember, 60 days, but we ended up getting 35. Right? And then we said next milestone, we need to get more customers. We need at least 10 customers. How do we do this? So, we have a flawed business model. Right? One of the issues we had with our business model is because we were part of GE, right? GE owned the salespeople. So GE guys from the US would fly to sell, and they would never sell our shop because we were joint venture with Malaysian Airlines. So why would they sell? They always sell the 100% GE shops, like the Singapore shop and so on shop. So I said, screw GE. I said, I'll do my own sales. So we set up our own sales team, led by me, that went to come. So we visited 36 different airlines in China, because China was just opening up in '99. And we started to sell ourselves. So we looked at the business model and said, it's flawed. We need to change it. And we did it. Now obviously after a while, we became quite successful. The G people, why are you having a whole sales team? You don't understand, it's a JV. Our other partners said we must, and so on and so forth. But we managed to 10x the business because we started to look at key milestones that we needed to incorporate. And then we hold the teams accountable. How do you get, sales was me, somebody else was this. Each person, look, my head of ops, you guys need to get the turnaround time. Somebody else needs to get quality, somebody else needs. So we had clear metrics. And there's a great book by Vern Harnish called Scale and Grow. If you read it, right, essentially it's about this, it talks about this. Another one is what I did at Google, forgot his name. But essentially, when Google kicked off, they actually did this: clear vision, clear reality, key metrics. How do we get there? And then you hold the team always accountable, that regardless of context. Okay, so that's leadership. Okay, let me walk a little bit more to structure. Now, how you structure your company will dictate how your company employees behave. Okay, so this one we sometimes don't talk a little bit about, but how you organize your company will dictate how people behave. If you make this person report to this person, they will behave in a certain way. If you pay your salespeople commission based on sales, they will sell a lot, but doesn't mean they will collect the money, right? And even though you can tell your employees, hey, sales guys, go and collect money, right? Okay, yes. They will go out there and but they will never collect money. But when you change the structure to say, this is how I'm going to pay you based on collection, right? So you sell, and then after you sell, based on the collection, right? You change your commission structure, guess what? Their behavior is going to be different. They're going to be very excited about collection. So how you pay, how you reward, how you structure, how you create reporting will dictate very much how people behave. So in 1997, I worked at NBC. NBC is a TV company, and most of the guys, so I ran I was the finance head for the news and sports division. So all I especially the sports, whether it's commentators and so on and so forth, they tend to be very creative guys. Couldn't be bothered about data, analytics. I know when I ran the Today Show, one of the guys came to me and said, Roshan, we need to know, this is in August, right? Like, hot summer, came to me and said, we need snow, we're going to do an episode on snow, and I need, how much is it going to be, 200,000 US to truck snow from don't know where into Rockefeller Center, put it there, and just for a 1.5 hour shoot. Right? So I said no. I said no, you don't understand. Right? So we have all this very interesting, but they couldn't be bothered about money or data and so on and so forth. Okay. So then Jack Welch comes in to our leadership team and says, guys, we need to implement Six Sigma. I don't know if anyone knows Six Sigma. Six Sigma is this quality program that is really very anal about data and how you measure everything, essentially. And so he said NBC, G Capital, all the G businesses, everybody needs to implement Six Sigma. And the TV guys are like, what? Six Sigma, what the hell is this? We are creative, why do we need all this mumbo jumbo? But because Jack Welch, you look at his face, he's so mean and he's very tough and he's the boss and whatever he says we do, right? So he said, fine, we'll implement Six Sigma. So we talked to the leadership team, okay, we'll have a big ceremony, we'll invite all employees, we'll have Jay Leno in California, we'll have Conan here, and we'll have Tom Brokaw, we'll have Katie Couric, we'll have all the guys, come in and say, oh, 3 defects per million opportunities, and each one will do their song and dance, make it a fun employee gathering, and by 2 hours, everyone will get a nice hat, QMBC, we get a t-shirt, Six Sigma, and we would have implemented Six Sigma, and we did that. So we did that, had this song and dance, implemented Six Sigma. Okay, we're done, take it off, okay, my milestone, I'm done, right? Now about 3 months in, Jack comes in and has a business review. So every 3 months he has a quarterly review with all of us. And he holds us to metrics, right? So he said, okay, let's talk about Six Sigma. In fact, that's the first thing he came in. Guys, what's your Six Sigma score? What's your mean? What's your standard deviation? What's your Z? What's your this? And he's asking all these questions and we're like, Z, mean, what's he talking about? And then he looked at us all blurred. He said, do you guys implement Six Sigma? Are you guys Green Belt certified? Are you this? Then all of us like, Green Belt? No idea what he's saying. And he got so frustrated. He went out and he told Bill Connolly, the head of HR, fire everybody in NBC. Right? But he went to G Capital, it was the same thing. Nobody listened to him. Here's the world's toughest CEO, voted the best ever CEO in the world in the century, in 99, the best CEO of the last century, right? And he couldn't convince his leadership team to do something he asked him to do. Simple thing, do Six Sigma. Nobody listened to him. The only ones that did it were the manufacturing sites, because they were doing it anyway. I mean, quality was part of their life anyway. And so he got very frustrated, and then the HR said, look, you can't fire everybody in NBC, he's going to run a business. You can't do that, right? You got to do something else. And then he realized, actually it's a structural issue. It's a structural issue. Right? I got to change the structure. I got to change the system. I got to change the processes. If I change that, they will behave. So in January 1998, he sends out a memo to all employees. That time email just came about. So we were all getting emails from him all the time. So every month he sends out an email. So we get an email from him and say, guys, good news. 1997 was a great year, 98 is going to be great, but here's the deal. Nobody in GE can get promoted unless you're minimum Green Belt certified. Right? This was a new mandate. You cannot be promoted unless you have your Green Belt certified. He sent it out. I was so motivated immediately to sign up for Green Belt training. And I was so motivated, I quickly signed up for Green Belt training. Not only that, I saw Black Belt, which is the next level. I said, I might as well sign up for Black Belt, just in case next year he changes it to Black Belt. So I might as well get certified. So I got certified Green Belt, and then I got certified as Black Belt. And I suddenly was personally motivated to do that. Nothing changed. What's changed? The structure changed. So people behave according to systems, according to structures, according to how you reward them, and how you organize your business. So if you want certain behavior, and Joseph will talk a lot more about behavior afterwards when he talks about culture. I'll do a very brief intro about culture, but Joseph will take it to the next level, right? Culture is not so much just about behaviors, but also about beliefs. We'll talk a little bit about that. But if you want, so what Joseph's going to talk a little bit more is how do you change behaviors? Because that's usually the problem in most of our businesses. We have employees that behave a certain way, and we're frustrated by them. So how do we get them to the next level? And a lot of it, before you start firing them, before you start saying, oh, this guy is hopeless, start looking at your structures and examine your structures and see if there are things in your structures that are constraining them. I'll give you some questions in a bit to think about, okay? So after towards the tail, I'll share. Let me just finish off. If you want to hire great people, right, it's structural, it's a process. So this is our model in Leaderonomics, right? We have a talent acquisition piece, but it's all process. It's not people. So usually we have a problem. We don't get good people, good this. Let's throw a person to solve the problem. But instead of throwing people, structure it first, and then say, hey, you execute this, right? So start thinking differently. So I've always said you always seem to have a hard time. So how do we attract talent? How do we develop them, manage them, and how do we retain them, right? So if you look down there, it's processes and tools. How do we build these processes so that it's easy to get that running, right? If you look at one question I always ask, which is more important, people or process? Which do you think is more important? People. Process. Right? I'll tell you this, it's very interesting because I grew up in a company called GE. And in GE, right, we only hired, Jack Welch was the CEO, right? We only hired people who were not so good like me, right? The ones that came from second tier schools. They never hired the superstars like from the Harvards, the Yales, the Ivy guys. GE never hired Ivy folks. But somehow, after they went through GE development, a lot of the GEDs, like even Jeff Immel, I think he's from Sacred Heart University of Fairfield. Small universities. I mean, later he got an MBA from one of these big schools. But essentially, right, they all come. You look at the undergrad, right? They all come from very small, unknown universities, or smaller. Most are unknown, tier 2 universities. Now there's another company called Enron, whose philosophy was people first. So we hired the best talent, and we gave them whatever they wanted, and we enabled them to grow the business. And the business, both of it. So in 1999, right, the best 2 businesses in the world was Enron and GE. But a year later, in the year 2000, Enron blew up. GE continued to chug along. And GE actually, the last 5 years, they got messed up because they started to focus on people. They started to say, oh, this is a great employee, let me take special care of him. Let me make some exceptions for this person. And then what happened is, I want exception too. And then you see people first, process starts to get eliminated. Build processes, and then follow that process. And over time, you will start to reap the rewards of it. It's not an immediate thing, but always, you will actually make people better by having processes. So it's the other way around. And I learned this from, if you study sports, right, the best sports coaches, right, don't have the best facilities. So the best sprint coach in the world is in a club called the MV Sports Club in Jamaica. Usain Bolt and I think 10 world records are held by people he coached. Okay. And if you go and visit that place, right, it's a rundown place. And he tells you this, his name is Stephen Francis, right? He says, comfort is the enemy of performance. He said the more comfortable, so he said all these performance centers decided to put comfort before performance. You want a person who wants to be there because they have a drive to succeed, not make them comfortable. And this is what happens in many places, right? We say employees comfort versus performance. You want to drive organization, but if you drive organizational performance, that person becomes better. So to me, I got pushed in many roles. I hated it. After a year and a half, really good at what you do, really liked it. I really liked my job at NBC. Oh, no, we're taking you and moving you to Europe. You're going to run banking out there. And I hated it because I was very settled. But because you get pushed, because you got discomfort, you grow. Right? And that's what structures are there to do. Is basically, and the best lesson I learned is from this guy. Do I have wait? No. Okay, so I visited. I visited one of my clients many years ago was a football club called Everton in 2005, I think, 4 or 5. I was doing a leadership retreat with the board and the leadership team of Everton. And at that time, there was a big transfer that just happened. Wayne Rooney had moved from Everton as a 17-year-old boy to Manchester United. And so I met Ray Hall, who was he was one of the leaders there. I said, Ray, you coached Wayne all your life. Tell me what you did. And he said, look, there's nothing magical about academy. Because every year the academy produces one boy. Even today, I think there's a guy called Tom Davis. Every year they produce one person that goes into the 16-year-old boy that makes it into the Premier League. So he said, what's the secret of your success? He says, look, it's just process. So here's what we do. We take 8-year-olds, and Wayne was the most outstanding 8-year-old, and we push him to the 10-year-old. He hates it because now he's a sub. He struggles. He's smaller size. He doesn't score as many goals. And he hates it as an 8-year-old, but we force him to go through that pain. After about a year, he becomes the best 9-year-old, but he's the best at under 10. And then we push him to the 12. So 9-year-old goes to 12-year-old. And he hates it again. And we do that again until he went to the Everton first team, but he hardly played, right? As a 16-year-old. And then when you bought him, right? And that's where, but essentially the process is a process. Whether it's for Wayne, whether it's for Steven Gerrard who left the academy or whoever, right? It's always the same process. And they've kept the process. And then they said, it doesn't matter if he goes, we'll build another one. We'll build another one. We'll build another one. Right? And it's interesting, like even developing leaders is a process. We always think it's about the person. If I spend time, if I build a process for mentoring for everyone in your organization, the outstanding ones will succeed. But if you don't have a process, then it's luck. That person takes initiative, that person, and then we prescribe luck. I met a guy called Rasmus Ankerson a couple of weeks ago in the US, and he was telling me something very interesting. He said, we sometimes, when we are successful, we describe that as genius. But you don't know whether your success was because you made right decisions or good performance, or whether it's luck. Right? And he's a football guy, right? So he said, look at this table, and he said, look at Newcastle United. This year they were 5th. Wow! And then next year they had exactly the same people, the same players, they were number 17. What happened? Right? It's because if you start to study that, you realize that their success was luck. Because they had one player, Papa Sissis, who was more successful in converting chances than Messi or Ronaldo. He converted 33% of his shots, whereas Messi at that year converted only 19%. And Ronaldo 17%. So he said that is just one off, right? And when that person goes, the whole squad goes, or that person doesn't play to form, it's not something consistent. Right? So you never do what we call success post-mortem. When we're successful, we don't ask the question, why did we succeed? Was it really because of good decision and good performance, or was it because of luck? And structures help you do that. Help you to build certain pieces. If you understand why you succeeded, build that into a structure. Build that into a process. Okay, so I'm going to go the last part. And it's culture, and I'm going to spend, let's see what we have. Okay, we have probably about 5 minutes. Cool. So I'll wrap up with this. I want to start with the story of New York City, and then I'll let Joseph take this further. So in 92, I moved to New York. And in 92, New York City was the murder capital of the world. There were 13 murders per 10,000 population, something like that. So every 10,000 people in the city, 13 will get murdered that year. Some ridiculously high number. And in 1993, there was a new mayor that came in, a guy called Rudy Giuliani. So Rudy is interesting. When he came in as mayor, he said, I want to do something to bring crime down in New York City. And he says, I want to do this one thing. I want all the policemen to stop chasing murderers. The policemen, what? What do you mean? That's our number one preoccupation, catch murderers. So no, forget about murderers. I want you to do something. I want you to set up a mobile police station in every single subway stop. Right, the trains or the MRTs equivalent. So set up a mobile police station every subway stop. And here's what you do. If somebody doesn't pay the 50 cents, right, back then it was tokens, they didn't pay the 50 cents, but they jumped over the turnstile. They just jumped over. I want you to jump on them, grab them, manhandle them, handcuff them, take them to the mobile station, take their photograph and send them to court. And then let them bail themselves out. And he said, but what for? It's 50 cents. It's $1. 25 cents. Why are we going after this? Do it. He didn't care. Okay, fine. So policemen all around, and if you want to Google this, the theory is called the broken window theory. Okay, it's a theory developed in New Jersey in the 70s. So essentially, and it's related to this cultural phenomenon. So essentially, 6 months later was something very interesting. Crime and murder had gone down significantly in New York. Right? So people say, what did Giuliani do? Maybe people who don't pay subway tokens are murderers. If you don't pay subway, you will probably likely murder. But that wasn't really what was happening. When psychologists studied this, they started, and that's why the broken window theory studied, psychologists started to prescribe this as very interesting phenomenon. So you know what was happening? It was not the people getting arrested that was being impacted. It was the others. What was happening? What do you think was happening? Why? No, but see what? So you never know, but here's what was happening. So when somebody didn't pay and jumped over, police jumped on him, right? The others who were paid saw this happening, and something was going in their mind. What was going on in their mind?
They're all over the place.
Fear, but what was driving it? So there was something that was happening in their mind. They were starting to think, my goodness, The guy didn't pay 50 cents, and this is how they're treating him.
What about men?
What if I take $5? What if I steal $5? What are they going to do to me? What if I kill somebody? Goodness, they're going to chop my head off, right? Something was happening in the people outside of those being caught, right? And this was what was happening. They had a certain belief. New York, I remember I was told when I went, like the moment I hit like 8th, right? Cannot go to 9th Ave, 10th Ave. You once you're 42nd Street, you go higher a little bit for 50th onwards, right? Oh, you're in trouble, right? I mean, there was this range from Grand Central to Times Square. It was okay, but don't go after 10 o'clock to any of the other places, right? 4 years later, right? You could go anywhere in New York City, no problem, no issues, right? But what was happening is that they had a certain belief in '92. The belief that New York is full of murderers, it's full of crime, and it's okay to do crime. There's a certain belief that they believed in. And this was fueled by their experiences. There's so many experiences that they were seeing people being shot in front of them, they were seeing all these things, right? And those experiences were fueling a certain belief. If I better kill before I get killed. There was a certain belief, right? But when they start seeing this happen in front of them, remember the experiences, right, were starting to change. They were starting to believe that maybe it doesn't pay to do crime in New York City. And as their beliefs started to change, guess what was changing? Their actions. And when their actions change, the results change. So let's take it back to Malaysia. We have very dirty toilets in Malaysia, right? Our public toilets are pretty dirty. And from 2005, we had campaign, Kebersihan campaign, all this clean toilet campaign, so many campaigns, right? 10, 15 years, no success. Why? So is it because, that's a big question, right? Is it because Malaysians don't have the talent to keep toilets clean? Could it be a talent issue? Why not? Because when you study the Malaysian and they go abroad to certain countries that keep toilet clean, somehow they successfully keep the toilet clean, right? So then you come to the Malaysians and say, hey, you kept toilet clean in Australia, but why here you cannot keep the toilet clean? And they get angry. Hello, I kept it clean, okay? I cleaned it, but I came back 2 hours later, it was dirty. And I did this many times. After a while, I don't care. So what's happening? They had a certain experience of trying to do the right thing. And after a while, the experience tells them, it's Malaysia, no way lah. Even if you keep the toilet, somebody else will dirty it. And then a belief starts to formulate. And the belief then translates to an action. I don't bother. And that action results in dirty toilets. And this is what we think culture is. And Joseph will talk a little bit more, right? Culture actually drives results. Now in your company, your employees are having certain experiences that makes them believe certain things about you, about your company, about what your business is about, and what needs to be done, how to behave. Oh, in meetings, I know the boss asks to ask questions, but I shouldn't, because the boss doesn't like to be challenged. Now there's a belief, true or not, may not be true. Because I had this until one of my employees, she came to me and said, Roshan, don't worry, it's not you, it's us. I said, what do you mean? She said, read this. I said, I read this. It's like a 700-page report, right? Psychologists did a study on why people don't like to ask questions during employee meetings. And you know why? Because if they come from certain cultures where the teachers scold them, don't ask stupid questions, this and that, right? From childhood. When they come to work, the relationship, the moment they see somebody standing in front of them, they believe it's a teacher. And somehow, all the beliefs start to come about. And the action is keep quiet, be a mouse, don't ask questions. And the result is a very quiet employee meeting. He said, don't feel bad, it's not you. You do all the right things, but it's just that you have to break away 20 years of beliefs that these guys had. So how do we do it? How do we change the experiences? We create rituals. So great companies create rituals to change employees' experiences, that change beliefs. Who said? I keep telling my team, we can be number one in the world. We are. We got people flying down. I mean, yesterday, a guy from Australia, New Zealand, the biggest leadership company, flew down to visit us to figure out how we're doing, right? Why? How do you do this? And wanted to collaborate with us. She said, look, and I purposely took him around and said, talk, and then, like, really? But to change their beliefs, they need to have different experiences or different rituals. And then the rituals drive mindsets or beliefs. And when you change the belief, then you get action. So if people are constrained by beliefs that are in your organization, you don't believe me, there are beliefs in our organization. You need to find out what those beliefs are. I want to show you very quickly. from GE, right? So Jack Welch, right, in 1981 he took over GE, and in 1985 he went to the board of GE, and the board said, Jack, we're going to fire you. And Jack, why are you going to fire me? He said, yeah, because for the last 5 years you've been running the company, but nothing has moved in the company. We're still 7%. You know, people hate you. You hold neutral job. You fired half the employees. You know, you're horrible. Get out of here. And he said, please, give me 1 year to figure this out. So he went back and he said, what's happening? I'm doing all the right things. I'm right sizing, downsizing, all the sizing. You know, he's doing all the stuff to make this big fat American company competitive with the Japanese. But nothing he did, right? Similar to my example earlier, nothing he did seemed to translate to results. And here's what's happening. He did a study and he found out that he said he had 400,000 people. He said too big. 10 layers of management, too far. 24, you know, we found out once, to get a simple requisition form, 24 signatures required just to get something. Right? This was stuff. I mean, it's a big old American company in the 1980s. Right? So he said, we need to cut this off. So he started cutting. But the more he cut, the more he struggled. And when he found out, here's what's happening. So we said fire, okay, I'll give you an example. Fire 20% of the employees. So people said, boss say I do, fire. But when they say, hey, I'm so sorry, I have to fire you. You know, in GE, we value loyalty. Because there's a belief that in GE, once they call it the GE lifer, once you join GE, you're a GE for life. Most of the guys were 40, 50. There's a belief, deep-seated belief in GE. So me as a manager, I have to fire you. Not fair. So don't worry, I have to fire you officially, but you come back as a contractor, okay? I'll take all your benefits and put it there. I'll keep your shares and this and that. So I'll bring you back as a temp. I'll bring you back as a consultant. I'll bring you back. So they fired 10% or 20%, but they brought all of them back in a higher cost and a higher capacity. And Jack, so if you fire all the middle managers, how can you fire all the middle managers? I mean, Jack's reaction is always fire people, right? and somebody said to Jack and said, look, this is what you did. You did this. You did what we call business model and structural revolution. You did this right size, fix, sell, close. I mean, you read a lot of GE's dogma in the 80s was all about business model and structural revolution. But what happened in 86 was he started the different revolution, what we call the cultural and leadership revolution. And when I started to study a lot of companies, I said it boils down to these things, right? It's really about structural and business model. Get the hardware right, but also get the software right. Clarity and the culture, right? If you can get those software and hardware, then you have a successful high-performance business. And here's what GE did. The biggest problem was culture, right? So GE started this thing, and we started different initiatives, but all the initiatives were culture related. So really, workout was about how do we drive empowerment, bureaucracy busting. Because GE, I told you, 24 signatures. Why? Because everyone will cover their ass, right? The reason why you have 24 signatures is nobody wants to take accountability. Too much bureaucracy. How do we kill it? So they had this thing called workout. Then they started this thing called stealing campaign. Why we started a stealing campaign? Because there's a belief in GE that every good thing is invented in GE. The X-ray, the TV, everything was invented in GE. So what good can come outside of GE? So he said, to change that belief, he started this thing called the stealing campaign. I want you to go to other companies, steal stuff. Like not stuff, but ideas. So go to Walmart and steal Quick Market Intelligence. Go to Motorola and steal Six Sigma. Just go steal. And the more you steal, the more you rewarded. But the idea was not a stealing campaign. It was because I wanted to change a belief. I created a new ritual to change the belief. You follow, right? Okay, so I'm not going to, and so on and so forth. And finally we came to digitization, where we said, let me take your job and digitize you. But you're very happy. I take your job and replace you. Why are you so happy? Because in GE, we started a ritual where if you destroy your job, you're guaranteed a bigger job. So my goal as an employee when I came in, I was told our culture is such. That's why I said, we had this belief, if you destroy your job, I guarantee you get a bigger job. And we make sure people who eliminated a job were rewarded with a bigger job. But think about it, if I get all my employees to eliminate their job, I have significant productivity. Versus, now I try to digitize. Most employees, when you try to digitize their job, they will give you 50% of the information. Why? They want you to fail. They say, you see, cannot digitize my job. But it's all beliefs, Because if they believe that they will lose their job, they're going to do that. But if they believe the moment they digitize to get bigger jobs, it changes the game. So I'll just finally, I won't talk so much about this, I'll send you guys a slide. I want to show you one piece. So if you go to your sheet, you'll see a page like this. And later, right, what you can do during the break is ask yourself, in your business, how good am I in business model? Is my business model really have no constraint? No constraint means like perfect business model. That's 100. But if you think my business is okay, maybe scalable, but not really there. I'm 50. I'm really bad, not scalable, right? How about my structures and processes? How about my culture? How about my leadership? Just do it for yourselves, because you all come from different businesses. You want to share with each other, great. Now the last thing I want you to do is go to this page. You will see a page. Can I have a copy?
Sure.
It's page 9. If I'm not mistaken. Oh, sorry. Yeah, page 9. Yeah, page 9. Yeah, it should be. Okay, if you go to page 9, right, you will see a checklist, right? I'm going to leave you with this, right? It's a checklist, and then after the next page, page 10, you'll see an empty page for business model, 10, 11, you'll see empty pages for you to jot notes, right? But here's what you do. If you look at business model, right, I think, and these are questions I ask myself, you can add more categories to it. Feel free to use this in any way that you want to use this tool. But for me, it was like, okay, how do I think about performance? How do I think of products and services? How do I think of positioning? And how do I think of partnership? I put partnership as part of business model because today, right, we are moving towards a collaborative business model. So we need to say that I cannot do everything. How do I build in the ecosystem? And that's why the business model needs the right partners and the right ecosystem. So, and then there are some questions like, are we collaborating within our company? Are we collaborating with customers? Are we leveraging strategic partnership? So you see these questions are questions to trigger you to think about these things, right? I don't have the answers, only you will have the answers. And this is good checklist that, after this, maybe on Friday, so you get your leadership team, 3, 4, or 5 of you guys, sit down and ask these questions, and then rate yourselves. You can make copies of that same chart, the earlier chart, and give to each of your employees and say, hey, can you rate us? Can you rate me, right? And say how you rate our business model, how you rate our, based on these questions, right? And then after that, kind of the next few sheets for you to jot notes, in terms of, hey, where's my performance? Or if you look at structure, right? It's on efficiency, it's on effectiveness, it's on enablers, right? So these are questions that you can ask. On culture, and Joseph will add more to this, right? On motivation, mindsets, and manners. We try to be cute and cap it with a PPE, MM, and so on and so forth, but choose your own words, words that make most meaning to you. Don't be bogged down by the tool, use the tool, use the tool as best as you can. So I'm going to leave you with this. And you can use this as best as you want. These are all the questions. I'm going to end by very quickly sharing a little bit about, let's see, okay, about 2 minutes. So when one of the things I learned in 2013, I told you I had to look at my own company. And I learned this very hard way, is that before you create something new, you have to destroy. And so I had this destruction comes before creation. So we had this company that were very social in nature. So we basically do stuff for kids. We go to schools, we run leadership clubs in schools. So we do a lot of this nation transformation work, but really our fundamental belief, because we have a philosophy that most leadership, the formative years are important. But the reason why we go to universities and also to corporates is because many times we work very hard in the formative years, but when they go into a company, you get destroyed by the processes, by the structure. Because you become the structure. So if you have corruption, you have this, the person slowly starts to believe that it's okay, right? So we said we need to look at this whole ecosystem from kids all the way to adults, and how do we fix this world through leadership development. And so we started this in 2007, actually in 2008, and we came up with this vision. How do we take one person and grow them into leaders? How do we take this leader, put them in a community to lead, but not a community of hate, not a community of fear, but a community of love, to transform them, right? And then, if we have many, many communities, the whole country will be transformed. That was the belief, and still is, right? And so, one of the things we started to do is we have this science behind leadership, and I will talk a little bit, but we have a philosophy. What happens in the foundation years, the emerging years, and XU? So again, this is a lot more. If you want, connect you with a head of research. She'll walk you through each piece. Is very complex, right? But essentially, we are trying to integrate leadership in all its forms. Now, the problem was that when I started to look at these 4 constraints, I started to say, goodness, are we really clear? And I think the first question is, hey, how about me? Do I have clarity? Do I have beliefs that are constraining me? Right? That are stopping me to believe that we can really be best in the world, that we can be the #1 leadership authority, that we can really transform the nation, right? And I started by asking these questions, and I had to unlearn and relearn. Because it's tough, right? I had certain personal beliefs that this is how a business should be run. But the world has changed, even in 10 years, it's changed so significantly. So how do I unlearn and relearn this new world that we are playing in? And then I looked at the business model. I said we have 3 big businesses. We serve corporates, we serve the community, and we also serve media, right? Because we started to realize kids don't read. So I needed to make videos. I needed to make content that's engaging. And so we started a media team. But our media team became so big that globally, people started to access our content. And so, wow, we got to grow this. We talked to Jack Welch, be our writer, John Maxwell, Simon Sinek. So all these guys started to join our portfolio. And then we became pretty big even in the US, right? So I said, but if I start looking at one of the ways we sell today is we sell like a pharmaceutical company. So we come up with a product, right? And then we say, buy this product. So training companies do this. They will create 7 habits as a product and they will sell it. And this can solve all problems. Viagra will solve all your problems. I mean, that's typical pharmaceutical, right? But I didn't want to be a pharmaceutical company. So I said, if you really want to drive change, I needed to not just sell products, I needed to be a hospital. But there was no hospital inside. Because most companies won't say, let me find out what's your problem, and then let me find the right solution. I may not be the person who has the right solution, but I'll find the right solution. It's like a hospital, right? Let me send you the cancer specialist. Let me send you here, let me send you there. But to do that, none of my employees liked it. Because to them, cannot. We're so comfortable selling products. It's easier to sell products. It's so hard to be a doctor. Because I have to spend so much time with you and get 0 revenue. Right? I diagnose a problem, I get nothing. The real money is operating you or pumping you with some medicine and so on and so forth. So why? Why are we doing this? Right? Well, we had to make this move. It was very tough. Because I had to restructure the company, I had to change the structures. But the business model was very clear. We had to move from a product selling company to a diagnostic company. We had to become a hospital. And then I started to say, how do we now look at our structure, right? So to become a diagnostic company, my processes must change. My sales team has to change. I had to change from even the name, right? We are no more sales team. You are now customer engagement. You are now customer diagnostic. And so we started to look at the 3 Ds: diagnose, design, and develop. And maybe we don't deliver the 4th D. Because we were so happy about delivering. That's where the money comes, right? When I deliver something for you. But now we had to work with partners. We had to work with Joseph. We had to work with all 200 old partners to say, you guys are good at delivery, you deliver. We will focus on the diagnose, the design, and the develop phase. Very tough. Because more money can be made in that. And then we have to share money with people. We have to, in fact, they get the bigger sum, right? The guys that delivers get the bigger sum. We get very little. But we do the bulk of the work, right? But it's about changing. So we change a customer team, a design team, a content team, right? So changing our structure, setting up enterprise, we never had that. How do we set up a bigger organization to support the smaller organizations that we had, right? And how do we ultimately create a back-end management, a front-end engagement team, right? A technology infrastructure. And finally, how do we have a culture? And we came up, look, clear results. Joseph will talk a little bit more about this. How do we created this culture called BE culture, going beyond expectations. So everything's BE. Like we have this BE culture. We were previously the naughty but nice culture. Naughty but nice because I used to like to do pranks to all my employees. But here's the problem with that. It was not scalable. So I used to prank this person, right? But I didn't prank you, then you got upset with me. You don't love me so much, you only love that person. But I can't prank, I have 75 people. I cannot prank 75 people, I spend my whole time thinking of pranks then, right? And so we were naughty but nice, we were nice, right? We played games with each other, right? But it's not scalable, right? So how do we change our culture to what we call this new culture? And we looked at 4 elements, right? To be synergistic, be accountable, be courageous. And Joseph will talk a little bit more about this in a bit. But how do we, and as we started to journey, right, we said, what kind of rituals can we create? Weekly rituals, accountable rituals, courageous, and there's many more now. As the years went by, it's 2015 I think, where we started to implement this. So I'll end with this. I think this, if anything, you think about 1 or 2 of these elements, or all 4, I think you can drastically change your business in a big way. It's something to think about. So with that, Kennedy, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Roshan. first talk from Roshan. I hope you enjoyed it. The reason why we make this this way, so it can be more intimate. So afterwards, you can approach the speakers and ask them any questions that you would like to. So it's more friendly and it's not so covering, right? So now we have some refreshments for you at the back. Please help yourself to some coffee, some tea, some drinks, and some little food in there. And we'll get back to the next talk after this. Thank you.